Cool, thank you.
Okay, so now we have Fox, please. Now, you're in a lucky situation where there's no one in between your two submissions, so you can talk for 10 minutes if you so desire.
Does anyone need to stand up? Have we shake? We're everyone good? Been sitting here for a while. Kia ora koutou. Thanks for having me along today. I'm going to control two laptops at the same time. Here we go. Nope. Vision statement. We're so close. We're so close. I'm really pleased to see that it's been updated to include reference to efficiency and reliability. Every mode of transport wants those things, some more than others. But also please think about how Christchurch is a great place to live is also missing from that vision statement currently. I haven't had a very good look at the updated draft, but it seems to focus on transport and not about just living in the city. Nope. This one, okay. Strategic challenges. I'm going to go through each of these very briefly, sorry. Building a safe and convenient cycling infrastructure and encouraging cycling, walking and other active transport is the best way to reduce emissions, as is moving rapidly to low emissions public transport, including mass rapid transit. This includes adding more bus priority lanes, shelters and intersection prioritisation for public transport. Nobody likes being held up at the lights in a bus or running the red lights in a bus. Managing growth as our community. Sorry, I'm looking at two different slides. Nope. Ōtautahi residents are increasingly looking at ways to live car-free, which developing technologies will increasingly support. Managing growth also needs to take into account those outside of Ōtautahi and Banks Peninsula who commute into the city and who would use mass rapid transit or passenger rail service if it existed. Please don't just focus on the residents who live within our boundaries. I feel like I'm out of sync here. No? Okay. This goal could be reworded to reducing harm created by the transport network, including deaths, serious injuries, and impacts on physical and mental health. This acknowledges the impacts of pollutants and noise on health and well-being. There is a wide body of knowledge showing the benefits of active transport for mental and physical well-being. Reducing fossil fuel use will have a major impact on respiratory diseases, including asthma. The best ways to reduce harm is to continue reducing speeds, increase active and public transport, and move all vehicles to fully electric. This is achieved through an excellent vision, strategies, policy, consultation, plans, and infrastructure. Goals. Overall, I'm going to move this slightly closer to me, sorry. Overall, Spoke supports this goal. Road surface renewals are important, but should also be based on need. Cyclists have different requirements. This includes smoother surfaces on the shoulders of roads where cyclists ride. Chip seal resurfacing needs to include regular sweeping when first laid, as the loose chip makes these shoulders dangerous. Footpaths and refuges also need maintenance goals, for example, when the handrails get damaged, and this is a frequent thing. Parks and reserve paths and alleyways are also a critical part of the transport network that need to be planned strategically and have ongoing maintenance. Parts of Europe deliberately plan their urban areas so it is faster and more desirable to use active transport. We also need to plan for the future, including investing a bit more upfront during regular maintenance in anticipation of the construction of the mass rapid transit system, which could lead to considerable savings in the long run. We strongly support the Pages Road Bridge renewal. So, Ōtautahi should continue to plan and consult on infrastructure well in advance to be ready to take up any central government funding opportunities should they arise. The business case for MRT should be reviewed regularly and be ready to go. Please fund research into cheaper source of the green road surfacing, as this is an important part of the cycle safety that is currently constrained by cost. Bicycle parking should be directly funded through a specific budget, including maintenance and replacement budget to replace older wheel bending types, such as outside Pendleton Library. Oh, shoot, I've run out of time. Okay. Active transport tends to be more resilient during natural disasters. Reducing reliance on fossil fuels and increasingly locally produced electricity and storage will significantly increase resilience in Ōtautahi and Te Pātaka o Rā Kaihuto, and will protect against supply and demand issues in fossil fuels due to international issues out of our control. There is no mention of rising heat risk, which will be an increasing impact on active transport. Tree cover is important mitigation. I'm just going to continue through, and this will be my own submission as well.
Far away.
Spoke supports a focus on safer transport network. Am I on the right one? No. This one. Separated cycleways that cover the whole city provide safety and confidence to cyclists. The 40% rise in use has proven the cost benefit of building cycleways as more people choose to cycle. The current government is no longer willing to fund cycleways, so we need to find cheaper but still safe ways to build temporary cycleways which will attract new cyclists. These temporary cycleways can be made permanent in the future when the government changes. This can include traffic calming on quiet streets, putting in cul-de-sacs, and other forms of modal filters, and upgrading alleyways or paths to make them more safe and usable day and night. Create a better way to report near misses. This could use the SnapSend Solve app. It would be easy to identify priority areas to be upgraded. Enable reporting of illegal parking by citizens via SnapSend Solve or photographic evidence with a timestamp, or fund 24/7 dangerous parking enforcement. The ability for pedestrians and active transport users to safely cross the road is important. Often a safe route can be compromised by one serious barrier to safe travel, for example, crossing Milton Street at Simeon Street. Reducing speeds is the cheapest and most effective way to reduce deaths and serious injuries, according to both national and international research. Christchurch City Council should continue with the speed management plan consulted on in 2023 and install infrastructure to encourage safe driving speeds. Let me remind you that there is a hierarchy of legislation, and the safety of all residents should be highest priority rather than whatever legislation national government is pumping out. The rapid uptake of e-bikes, particularly by older people, should be taken into account. This is also a significant rise in the different types of bikes and trikes that are larger and carry more people, including children. A safer transport network also includes a healthier transport network. There should be a KPI aimed at reduction of deaths from air pollution and a measure to increase mental and physical health. Noise pollution is also an issue. There should be an active program focused on encouraging mode shift. CCC programs in this area need a higher profile. We fully support the road safety programs. We support cameras to reduce red light running, including at pedestrian and cyclist mid-block crossings, which are often ignored. This one. An efficient transport network prioritises the most cost-effective transport options for the city that takes into account all direct and indirect costs and benefits. Active transport infrastructure, including cycleways, have a much higher cost-benefit ratio compared to roading projects. Encouraging mode shift to active and public transport creates efficient use of road space by reducing single occupancy journey using motor vehicles. Increasing active transport reduces road maintenance costs. Moving freight from trucking to rail, particularly between the port and the inland port, would improve efficiency and safety on Ōtautahi's roads. We support logistic hubs and low emissions freight distribution such as using e-cargo bikes. Okay, there's a lot to get through here, so let's just do the top points. Significantly improve our public transport system. Continue to build a safer, more connected and attractive network for walking, cycling and other micromobility. Support residents and schools to try new ways to travel. Enable the transition to low emissions vehicles. Roads are more than just spaces for vehicles to travel through. They enhance where people live and can include green spaces. They are also not free long-term storage for cars. Vibrant cities encourage active transport and public transport. Vibrant cities have connected neighbourhoods. And any questions?
Yep. Yanni was just beat you.
Thank you for the submission. I was really interested in the press article that you put in, where it basically shows whether the infrastructure, the cycling infrastructure, has gone in. There's a big increase in people cycling rather than driving, and I just wondered if you had any thoughts about our prioritisation of our cycleway spending. Whether you think we need to look at constantly delaying the cycleways in the east to fund the ones in the west, or whether we should think about investing in the east where there's clearly, from the evidence that you've given, a lack of people cycling because of the lack of infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in equitable spending, so I feel like both the east and the west need more spending. The south has got plenty, and it's great that they've got that. Yes, they want more, so would I, but I think both the northwest and the majority of the east need more cycleways, as is proven, like Aranui right at the top there. Absolutely.
And thank you. And because you had a fair bit on your plate there, Celeste, do you have a question?
Actually, I was interested in this particular graph. So Yanni beat me
You're
to
done?
it. Same
You're
question.
Thank you very much for making the effort to come in.
Thank
Good
you.
work. Thank you. Right. Susan, please.
Not here.
Mary.
She's on Zoom.
Oh, sorry, Mary's on Zoom. Not quite yet.
Not yet.
Do you need a
Christopher.
Someone's coming to speak and she wants to.
No,
We are running a wee bit ahead of time.
Tom's not here.
And Tom's not here. Right, shall we have, yeah, if we give it 5 or 10 minutes and then let people catch up, because we are moving along, because we had a few people pull out. So what do we got? We've got
2:20. She's meant to
20
be.
past. How's that grab you?
She's here.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Susan, please. Susan. Oh, yes, here she goes. Good. Hello and welcome.
I have gone through a few points which I've made previously to the council about climate, and I'll just go through those very briefly, intending to show a few clips from the electric bus fires worldwide video. Apologies if my technology skills are not up to standard. I refer in particular in my submission to the centrist article which says New Zealand is unprepared for EV fire risks. CCC debt, as I understand it, is over 1 billion. And I've said before, we go by extremely eminent scientists, all emeritus professors, who say that this climate narrative is a hoax, a gigantic $1 trillion a year money-making scam. CCC debt is over $1 billion. What is the entire climate spend, I'd like to know, annually, which could actually get us back into the black? If all of that climate spend is withdrawn, Trump has exited, and so can we, from the Paris Climate Accord. We can also stop all unnecessary and wasteful climate spending. We are being played. Christchurch can be the first New Zealand city to stop funding this racket. Was the Ralston bus fire an electric bus fire? Just going to. I also recommend that councillors watch Climate the Movie, which is again mainly fronted by emeritus professors of great eminence. And I also suggest that the council invite some of the climate realists to address the council, which is a very illustrious group, and I've listed them in my submission. Planners are using RCP 8.5 extremes to frighten the public, and they are absolutely unrealistic and implausible. The hot air carbon trading scandals, New Zealand has already been involved with Ukraine, with emissions trading that was completely fraudulent. Oxfam has shown a $41 billion has disappeared into thin air from the World Bank, their so-called climate spend. CCC managed retreat based on implausible data of 1.4 metre sea level rise when in fact it's only 15 centimetres per century. Professor William DeLonghi, I've suggested, should do an accurate report for Canterbury. CCC can stop all its climate spend. So I'll go to the electric bus fires worldwide video, and I'm only playing a few of the clips from this bus just
in
to...
London, they had 3 electric buses catch on fire back in January 2024. And these were 3 separate dates in January. This is a trend across the world where we're having a number of electric buses catching on fire. I'll start with this incident that happened in May of 2021. And this incident happened in China. And you can see it was a charging-related incident. One bus caught on fire, and then it just ripped through the line, bus after bus after bus. And when you look at any bus depot, that's how they store their vehicles. They're putting those vehicles as close as they can together, and that can cause problems once you have some type of charging-related fire. And for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of these buses that caught on fire were charging-related. Now, this next fire is spectacular, and most everybody has seen this fire already. It happened in Paris in April of 2022. But what most people don't realize is there were actually 2 buses that caught on fire on separate dates in Paris in April of 22. The first bus fire was on April 13th, and then later on April 29th, a second electric bus caught on fire. Since that time, they've actually suspended these buses in Paris, and I've checked with some contacts I have over in Paris, and those buses are still offline. What many people don't realize is when you're talking about a vehicle like a bus, you can put the high voltage batteries pretty much anywhere in that bus. Down low between the frame rails, in the roof, on the back end of the bus, the front end, it doesn't matter. It just happens to be wherever those manufacturers decide to put those batteries. And in the case of the bus in Paris, those batteries were roof mounted. And then there's this bus fire here that everybody attributes to being an electric bus.
Yep, that's cool. Susan, you're going to run out of time here, but can this be sent to us so that we can all watch it?
Yes, it is in my submission.
It's in your submission, just making sure that it is.
Yes.
So that's quite
Yes.
confronting looking stuff going on there.
A quick look online just before I came over was I see that 4 electric buses in Auckland have caught on fire in the last couple of years as well. And was the Ralston bus fire an electric bus?
I'm not sure. I know I saw it on TV, but I don't know.
And can anyone answer what is the entire climate spend of this council annually and overall?
Yeah. So okay, I'll do one more question because Sarah might know the answer to this. Sarah.
Thank you so much for that, Susan, and welcome, Hugh. I'm just wondering, even if it wasn't about climate change, so if we took climate change away from it completely, do you think that we should be making our streets, for example, safer for kids to bike to school, that kind of thing? Because at the moment, for example, parents don't like their kids biking to school because there's too many cars and people on their phones and stuff. Like, even if it wasn't about climate and emissions, do you think that enabling kids to bike to school is a good thing?
Well, I don't think it's got any, relevance to say it's nothing to do with it's electric buses or a bus or a diesel bus, is it, whether children's bike to school?
No, it was just your general comments about climate change and not wanting us to talk about climate change and the policy and stuff.
No,
Yeah.
well, if you have a look at my submission, you'll see a few references to, as I say, very eminent scientists who say it's all a complete nonsense based on implausible data. So, I'm suggesting Christchurch withdraw itself both from the entire climate spend, because this council is deeply in debt, and I suspect that a lot of the debt has come from this, unwise climate spend in the first place.
Yeah, but even if we took away money and took away any reference to climate change, you'd be okay with us spending it on things that help kids travel safely, for example?
Well, I just can't be bothered answering that question, actually. It's just ridiculous.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan, for coming in and giving that. And we'll certainly, I'm sure we'll all look at the video. Thank you. Okay. Mary is on Zoom. Okay. Hello, Mary. Can you hear us?
Yes, hello. I'm up in the far north. I wasn't informed until last Friday that this...
Very far north. Oh dear. She's on a landline.
Dialing in landline via Zoom.
Didn't know you could do that. Okay, here we go. Carry on. Sorry, Mary. We just lost you there for a minute.
Can you get me now?
Yep.
Okay, right. Okay, this is all a bit ad hoc put together because I wasn't aware until Friday, when I was already on holiday, that this was occurring, and so I didn't have everything to look up and check. But I want you to focus on pedestrians. Now, nearly everyone can be a pedestrian. There's over 90% of the population, and it's the most eco-friendly form of transport. It's available to nearly all the population, regardless of income or ability to at least walk. and it has the most health benefits of any form of transport, which often seems to be ignored, that you only consider getting from A to B, not the benefits of getting from A to B. And you continually consider only walkers, but all walkers are pedestrians, but not all pedestrians are walkers. And please always consider those who run and jog as well. And pedestrians are unique in travel because they don't interact with the ground surface with wheels. Yet authorities like yourselves appear to not consider this, and path surfaces are continually designed to be made of asphalt, concrete and shingle, ideal for wheels but not for feet. Now, also with asphalt and concrete, you always put in a camber so that they can be drained off, but this is also very bad for joints. And I showed you last year that there are new surfaces available made out of rubber from used tyres, so also eco-friendly, and they are permeable, they're softer, so heaps better for pedestrians. So I'd like you to consider this in your long-term plan, even if it's just for a trial of an area that's used by pedestrians, so that I get told, because I'm the only person who comes to you about pedestrians with this, is that it's not considered. But if other pedestrians knew of these benefits, then I'm sure they'd tell you it's a good idea. Also, with intensification, you've got more vehicles crossing driveways, more bins out on bin day, more 6-foot high front fences, which are blocking visibility. And on roads that have cycleways, if someone's backing out across the cycleway, they look in if it's a one-directional cycleway, they look in that direction. They don't look for pedestrians coming the other way because they want to get out before a fast cyclist comes along. Now, shared paths are just, as they get more use by cyclists, become more and more pedestrian unfriendly. And the example I want you to look at is the proposed Brime Street overbridge, where you're going to have pedestrians, cyclists, those on mobility devices and those on active travel modes all sharing the same space. I understand it will be 5 metres wide, but because it has sides on the bridge, it will effectively be 4 metre usage space, which you've got them going up and down in both directions, and you've also got speeds between probably 2 or 3 kilometres an hour to 30, perhaps even 40 kilometres an hour going downhill on wheels of cyclists or e-bikes. And combined with that, the weight of a person on an e-bike, as well as the weight of the battery and all of the e-bike, you're looking at quite easily 150 kgs of person and device, and the same with mobility devices. But there's also in the crime prevention through environmental design report, or the detailed design safe system audit, I'm not sure which one I took it from, it says the likely probability of crashes by users of the bridge is highly, the probability is likely, but the injury severity is minor, just first aid needed. Now that's ridiculous. On a downhill slope, something with 150 kgs on wheels hitting a pedestrian, doesn't matter whether they're elderly, child or whatever, could be a fatality. And no one seems to be considering this. You've also got cargo bikes and mobility devices, and the bikes that have the bit on the back to carry groceries or a young child, they are getting close to 1 metre wide. To safely pass them, you are talking of well over 1 metre wide.
Mary, thank you, Mary. You've actually used up your time. Have you got much longer to go? Sorry.
Just one more comment. You've got to have the ability to pass a driving lesson to drive a vehicle. You also have to be medically fit. If you go to a GP and they assess you're no longer capable of driving, you lose your driver's license. But e-bikes, e-scooters, mobility devices, and all those don't require this. So you've also got more susceptible people on devices who can't control those devices. And you're talking about a 360-degree access to the bridge, climbing 7 metres, declining 7 metres. It's just a recipe for accidents and disaster and serious accidents.
Thank you very much, and thank you for going to so much trouble to zoom in from the far north. So very, very impressive.
Yeah, we had to drive around for a while to find a reception.
Good on you. Thank you. Okay. Christopher, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. When I made my submission back in December, we had a Transport Minister who treated cyclists and pedestrians like an invasive species, and a Minister of Local Government who believed in local decision-making as long as the locals did what he wanted. Now, we have yet to see whether his successors will change tack, but I urge you as a council to work towards and advocate for the transport system that Christchurch needs, not the one that someone from Auckland thinks we should have. I'm broadly supportive of the draft strategy, but I wanted to focus on 3 areas as you consider both the strategy itself and its implementation in the upcoming years: mass rapid transit, safe speeds, and cycleways. The Greater Christchurch Partnership study on mass rapid transit forms the core of this study's recommendation. I think Christchurch needs rapid transit, and I agree with the chosen corridor. However, given that this is a 30-year strategy document, I think Christchurch could be more ambitious and lobby for a full Rangiora to Rolleston plan, even if the actual delivery is staged. The partnership recommended surface light rail, which is an eminently sensible option, but I think elevated, automated light metro, similar to Vancouver's SkyTrain system, is still worth consideration. It's fast, frequent, and cheap to run. The partnership heavily marked down light metro because they considered it provided too much capacity. Europe and Asia can build these systems for the same price we estimate that we'll pay for light rail, so why can't we? Goal 3 of the strategy is to build a safer transport network. The cheapest and most effective way you can make roads safer is simply to slow traffic down. The former minister tried to take away as much of your power to decide speed limits as he possibly could, with blanket rules and onerous cost-benefit analysis requirements. However, slower speeds should be a core part of the strategy to make the transport network safer. I think of the 11-year-old girl killed in Flaxmere. If the car that hit her had been going at 30 kilometres per hour, there's a pretty good chance that she'd still be alive right now. I urge the council to push through the obstacles and lower speed limits where the people of Christchurch are asking for it. The costs of death and injuries are so high that many cost-benefit studies would find that savings from slower speeds outweigh the benefits of marginally shorter trips. The irony of the current very rigid rules is that on the 1st of July 2026, you're going to be obligated to put in variable speed zones in a lot of places that you probably don't want to, like Papanui Road or on Bram Street at the exit from the Southern Motorway. Morning commuters are going to love that. Finally, let's talk about cycleways. A few years ago, I stood before the council and urged you to build more cycleways faster. My position hasn't changed since then. The transport strategy has a note about more innovative, cheaper, quicker to build infrastructure. As a tool to expand the safe cycling network rapidly, I approve of it. If we'd taken the same approach with wings to wheels that we did with Ferry Road and Rolleston Ave, we might have actually built something by now. But over time, those quick, temporary cycleways should be transformed into permanent, best-in-class infrastructure. Since the Mayor really likes stadiums, I'll use an analogy just for him. After the earthquakes, Christchurch built a temporary stadium at Addington. It was built cheap, it was built fast, and it does a perfectly adequate job. That didn't stop the council from spending $500 million of ratepayers' money on a stadium that's bigger, shinier, and to use a phrase I've heard bandied around a lot in relation to cycleways in Christchurch, over-engineered. Cycleways should be no different. Why should cyclists tolerate being less deserving of council spending than rugby fans? There are some councillors that talk about cycleways as if they're a burden on the city and the council. I urge those councillors to start thinking of the cycleways as an asset to the city instead. Christchurch's major cycleway routes are as good as anywhere. There's no reason that Christchurch couldn't have cycling levels similar to Copenhagen or Amsterdam. It's happened all over the world. It's the cheapest transport infrastructure you can build, it reduces congestion, it improves health. Christchurch's cycleways could be a huge selling point for why people should choose to live here. All the cool cities, like London or Paris or Seville, have lots of cyclists. Does Christchurch want to be a cool city?
Okay, right. So one question. Yep. Aaron, please.
So just on the MRT, the proposed plan from Belfast to Hornby, which you said Rangiora to Rolleston's better, which I agree with. So Belfast to Hornby's 4 billion, the other's 10 billion. How do we justify that?
I think it's a case of lobbying for the future we want. 4 billion, we really honestly have to look at the cost of infrastructure in New Zealand. The money we spend on actually delivering any kind of light rail is ridiculous. As I said, I think we should lobby for the Rangiora to Rolleston solution within the 30-year time frame, because I know that the Greater Christchurch-based study was, we're recommending building Belfast to Hornby first, and then sort of extending it to Rangiora and as a later study. I'm saying the council should be ambitious, raise its height, saying Hornby to Belfast is a great phase one. Within 30 years, we'd like it to be going out to the satellite cities as well.
Yeah, my question was more around the cost of the justifying the but you say it's, so if there's a cheaper way to do it, you think we should explore it?
I mean, I think whatever is chosen,
You said the Skyline one, which there's a company in Hornby that are building one for the campus over in Palo Alto, and that's 1/10 of the price per kilometre and moves up to 1,000 people an hour. That would be a better system, wouldn't it?
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming in, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have now got Tom
and Sandamali.
Sandamali. Yeah, Tom and Sandamali, please.
She's on Zoom.
Yep, Sandamali's on Zoom. Hello there. Far away, bud.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. Thank you very much for having us today. My name is Tom Chatterton and I'm the chairperson of the Property Council South Island Committee. On behalf of the Property Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you about the draft Ōtautahi Christchurch Future Transport Strategy. I would also like to introduce Sandamali from the Property Council Advocacy Team online. Property is the largest industry in Canterbury. There are around $245.5 billion in property assets across Canterbury, with a property providing a direct contribution to GDP of $4.5 billion and employment of circa 35,000 Canterbury residents. Property Council supports the overall messaging in the strategy, and we look forward to engaging with Council on the implementation plan. We only make one recommendation, which we will touch on today. Property Council supports a transport system that connects communities, allows people to travel efficiently across regions, and enables the safe and efficient movement of freight. We're on board with the proposed goals that will guide Christchurch City Council's work programmes in relation to this. That said, a good transport system should also unlock housing and development opportunities. Investing in transport is important for cutting down commute times, providing more housing, boosting businesses and lowering emissions. We think it's key to link urban development with transport, and we suggest revising the strategy to make sure it focuses on that to reduce emissions more effectively. As I said earlier, we look forward to seeing the implementation plan of the strategy, given that this will influence the way the private sector invests along the transport network. Development takes time. It can take 10 to 30 years to plan and deliver big projects. So it's crucial that the private sector feels confident that the decisions Christchurch City Council makes will stick, so the market will be ready to invest in the city. We want to see Christchurch City Council get a solid return on their transport investment, and that can only happen with a clear and steady vision. In terms of infrastructure investment, we know that New Zealand is in a tight financial spot, so we're happy to see that the draft strategy is looking at other ways to fund future transport projects in Christchurch. Property Council supports a mix of funding and financing models, including public and private investment and partnerships, value capture, general and targeted rates, and special purpose vehicles as enabled under the Infrastructure Funding and Finance Act. We're also looking forward to seeing if a regional deal is agreed to be by Christchurch City Council and central government. Having greater financial support and investment from central government will drive improved infrastructure outcomes across Christchurch. Our last point before concluding is around genuine transport choices for all. The Property Council is pleased to see that the strategy highlights the importance of offering genuine transport choices for everyone. Targeted intensification in urban centres, town centres, as well as the improved public transport system is key to encouraging mode shift towards the take-up of sustainable options. For mode shift towards public transport in particular, the public transport system must be easy to access, efficient, reliable and affordable. In conclusion, Property Council supports the overall messaging in the strategy, and we look forward to engaging with Council on the next steps. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah, then Pauline.
Kia ora, thanks so much for that, Tom. I just don't know, have you seen the updated version that was done based on the submissions?
We have. I'll pass over to Sandamali on the advocacy.
The updated version does talk about not just managing growth, but enabling it, unlocking space, that kind of stuff, which is what you were talking about. Yeah. And the last bit as well, enhancing connecting urban areas or managing the risk of congestion, those kind of things. It was all with that property. Just wondered if that was okay, like if you'd seen it and you were okay with the new wording, or if you wanted more in that enabling growth space.
I haven't seen it. When did that one come out, sorry?
Probably just came out in the agenda, would be on probably Friday. So there's an updated version, and we can probably flick you through the track changes version, because they have made some really good changes based on people's submissions. And some of that was around not just managing the growth, but enabling it and unlocking stuff.
That's good. Well,
yeah, I would love to get a copy of that if that's okay. And that's great if it encompasses something we've suggested.
Yeah, thanks.
And Pauline, please.
Yeah, look, this is a really mean question, but your comment about public transport needs to be affordable. Do you have any ideas of how we can do that? I mean, I know it's Environment Canterbury run the buses, but it's a chicken and an egg, isn't it? Yeah. Have you got any bright ideas?
I'm a quantity surveyor by trade, so I've always got ideas. But from a Property Council perspective, I don't believe we've given up any suggestions on that. But talk to me as a QS, I might give you some.
Yeah.
So Sandamali, I don't know if you do. If you had a thought about that.
No, I wouldn't defer to add on that.
I guess just encouraging more people to use it is probably step number one, isn't it? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you to both of you for making the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. See ya. The last one is Sarah from Gerard Environmental Design. Hello.
Tēnā koutou. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. Can everybody hear me, right? Right, I'm a landscape architect with a bent for spatial planning and constantly working through options from the big picture to the nitty-gritty detail. From a master planning urban design perspective, I'm excited by this draft future transport strategy as a means of developing the transport structures that support the vibrancy and prosperity of the CBD, suburb and Greater Christchurch. The photo here is of Melbourne, which is indeed a vibrant city. And I'll just see if I can work this. So today I'll focus on the MRT component of my submission because my submission was quite comprehensive. I note that the scope of the draft transport strategy is limited to the road reserve, and it did not include rail, tram, water, air or other means of transport options, which for one reason or another could become more relevant in the future, should we be planning for this. I would like this opportunity to advocate the use of the existing rail corridors for commuters, as well as for freight and tourist transport. This could provide a shorter-term, cost-effective, mass rapid transport option. The rail trip from Christchurch City to Rangiora is a pleasant commute, but in 2020 it costs $25 one way. The present passenger train service from Christchurch is geared for tourist travel. Does it need to be this way? I would like to see the council collaborating with KiwiRail to use the existing rail corridors to develop a mass rapid transport service to extend from Christchurch out northwards to Rangiora, westwards to Darfield, and south as far as Burnham Military Camp. I propose that the ex-stockyard yard site at the southern end of Deans Avenue is a well-connected city station site and perhaps a passenger train depot in the Hornby-Islington area. A new rail corridor, which is the purple one, connecting west of the city from Hornby to Belfast could service a frequent scheduled connection to the airport. To start with the service, we could use a small frequent rail car, then extended to larger commuter trains and more railway lines over time. Land designations for MRT to growing areas such as West Melton and Lincoln would need to be started now. So there are solutions around future congestion that would be caused by frequent rail passenger movement with road traffic flows and freight rail, and these could be worked through. Sort of different options available, and then also with the even the land under railways lines can be utilised, and so parks, farmland, that sort of thing, we can sort of work around the existing land use. So the Christchurch tram, as well as being a transport for tourists, could be a hop-on, hop-off transport mode for commuters and other users. So I propose here a frequent tram service to connect the Greater Christchurch Rail City Station there on Deans Ave to, I don't know if I can point to things. Does that pointer work? Oh yeah. And then link to Hagley Park, Hagley College, the new Recreation Sports Centre, Christchurch Hospital, and then to Riverside, and then also to the Christchurch Bus Exchange and to the whole of the city suburbs, and then also to the stadium and to Ara. So it's a new circuit that I propose. That's it. This. Okay, I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, I'm over time.
No, keep you.
Yeah. So that's in Oslo, and it's a very, with the tram, it is a very, very people-orientated city. I support the concept, I'll just add these bits in, I support the concept of walkable catchments. However, the 15 or 20 minute walkable city concept could provide a more measurable goal to target to work to. I support tree planting along transport corridors for all the values that trees bring to the urban environment. And as well as providing oxygen, which is handy, I would like to add trees are also important for resilience by uptaking groundwater, reducing the associated hazards of groundwater effects on substrate stability and flooding. So I conclude to achieve a safe and easier city environment to get around, carbon emissions reduction, sustainable infrastructure for urban growth, and an efficient transport system that is accessible for all, I ask why the scope of the strategy is limited to the road reserve. I believe the rail and tram massive rapid transport for passengers could provide a far greater gains in meeting the strategy's goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very good. Sorry, Yanni, we haven't got time. No, but that was good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. We'll have Jane wants to come up. Councillors got any questions they want to ask of staff at the moment? It doesn't matter if you don't, but you can always send the queries through or alternative amendments through to Natasha by lunchtime on Monday. These will be compiled and staff response will be circulated in a memo ahead of the adoption decision scheduled for 19th of March. Okay, yep. Oh, sorry, you did that. Right, so who we got first? We've got Tyler, Yanni, Aaron. Okay, mate, go if you like.
Kia ora, guys. There's some things that don't directly correlate to the strategy itself. What do we do with the information that's provided within the submissions that we've received?
Do you mean the content that may be more applicable from an implementation perspective?
Yeah. So, for example, there may be the micromobility things that David and Co have put up, or the submission that we've heard before around alternative routes. Those kinds of things are really nice gold nuggets. What happens with those pieces of information if they don't directly correlate with the strategy?
That's a good question.
I mean, as part of developing the subsequent implementation plan and guidance, we can hold on to those gems and utilise it in the project work that follows. So I think the key is synthesising those messages and using it in future processes so we don't lose that. Yeah.
Great. So we won't need to, as a council, wouldn't need to actually put in any recommendations or anything like that in regards to the stuff that is probably not applicable to this.
Yeah, one of the approach that we've taken with the strategy is to keep it at a reasonably high level and then follow up with an implementation plan that will for consideration as into long-term plans or on our work programs. So that would be a follow-up piece of work, and if there was any kind of gems that you saw through what you heard through this process that could be brought up in that context.
That's great. So just reiterate for public knowledge and to alleviate any issues, you're looking to potentially, or through us, implement some things into the long-term plan with whatever may be applicable to that.
Yeah, as part of project planning design, we can consider some of those gems that were identified by various submitters. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mate, Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just mindful that there's been one or two suggestions today that we might lose the opportunity to act on them if we don't act on them sooner. One thing that I would like to get a clear understanding of would be when the infrastructure design standards are coming up for review, or how through this process we can amend them. So that's, in relation to how close we allow development to intersections. There might be, I mean, there's a whole wide range of things around accessibility in there as well. The other thing was I've offered, and no one's responded, but I've offered to sit down with staff and work through a process for when we're spending money on road maintenance, that we do community engagement to understand what the concerns are, like we heard with Sturrock's Road. I've had similar issues in Pages Road, where we've got a cycleway proposed, but we don't have any process to engage the community ahead of doing the significant maintenance work. So is there a way that we can follow up on just that basic request of when we're spending money to do curb and channel maintenance renewals, that we have some sort of community engagement process that enables the community input into what we'd like or what they'd like, and an ability for us to consider it in terms of meeting the objectives in our transport plan?
Maybe we can record.
Trees.
Yeah, we can record that as a question and respond separately outside this.
I'm just mindful that the longer we take to respond on that, the more, the less opportunity we get to do that.
Yep.
You know,
wouldn't that be connected to a community board briefing?
No, the community boards don't get. So the community boards do not get any information except for a start work notice once the contract's been let. Once the contract's been let,
I realise
it's too late to do anything.
I'm realising the process to have one councillor going, it should be actually, if you're going to up it, it should be with the community board.
I agree. Like the local board would make the final decision on what might go in there, for sure, based on the delegations.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
But it's just getting the process looked at so that we can pick up on those opportunities.
Just on the first point, we can find out when the next review of the IDS is scheduled for and consider.
I know the IDS is underway, that review, but I don't know where it's at.
Aaron.
I just think that given we're in the public domain and we had a submitter on behalf of some serious investor groups in the city questioning how we got to this point, that question should be answered publicly. We have a plan that's only part way through, we're replacing it already.
Yeah.
We do that with our long-term plan.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah.
Aaron,
we can, staff can answer that question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we can answer that question. I guess that it's probably, I use an analogous example of the long-term plan, which has a 10-year horizon that we refresh on a 3-year basis. So with this being a 30-year plan, it hasn't been refreshed since 2012, and the context for that plan was post-quake recovery in great part. So it's looking at where we are now and thinking, well, what does the next 30 years look like? And some of the things that are in this plan are kind of either build on or are new from the previous one.
I'd suggest also this draft, we've got a greater understanding of the issues in the future, and it gives greater recognition of climate resilience and the need to adapt, which the previous plan, whilst there's reference, it's certainly not sufficient.
And I'll just add to that, it's quite common that plans or strategies have a horizon of 20, 30, 50 years, but they get refreshed every so often. And the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan is another example. That's to 2050.
Okay, so then on all our plans that are replacing existing plans that are only partway through, it should probably clearly state that on the front of the document going forward when we do any. I mean, because it's obvious in the long-term plan that we do that, but if we're not explaining that in all the others, then people will ask that question, say, why are you wasting money?
Yes.
And then the other one is, who audited the numbers on the MRT, and are we happy they're still accurate, especially given the budget blowouts of, like Sydney, for instance, which is Sydney's 258 million per kilometre, 258 million Australian dollars per kilometre, and their population density is 8,000 people per square kilometre. And so we've got a model that, so are we still happy with the old numbers?
I think if perhaps that would be a good question to add into the mix, that we could go away and put a response together for.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be quite handy. Because
Yep.
I think Auckland have come a bit undone on their budgets as well.
Just to comment on that now, the figures are from the indicative business case that
Yeah,
was done
yeah.
through the Greater Christchurch Partnership, and it was done by Ōtautahi at that time.
Yep, that's right. Tyler.
Be wrong.
Tyler? No, done. Mark, please.
Thank you. We've heard today from a couple of submitters around connecting the western side, particularly the airport. I'm just wanting to understand that we are going to sort of have a strategy around that to make sure they do have that well connected.
So, as you know, the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan identified Hornby as a priority development area, and we're initiating local area planning for that area now, in fact, with some project planning. Also worth noting that the New Zealand Transport Agency, Ōtautahi, are initiating some scoping work on an access study, which is looking at the future of the state highway network in Hornby and the airport, and we'll be working closely and alongside them to achieve a better integrated approach. Yeah.
Yep. And I guess to pick up on the airport's deputation here today about the Memorial Ave and that sort of idea, to make sure that's connected as well.
Yeah, that was the idea of an MRT route to the airport was considered through the indicative business case from memory, and to achieve MRT you need a population density to make it work, obviously for patronage but also to make it viable, and with the restrictions on intensification around the airport, restrictions on residential intensification as a consequence of the airport noise contour, is not necessarily viable for what's described as MRT, but is certainly as part of the broader public transport program, we would look to improve connections to it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Marcus. And Celeste, please.
In terms of the old plan versus the new plan and talking about post-earthquake recovery and rebuild, is there a way to make sure that we've kind of got visibility of the bits that haven't been done yet? Because in terms of updating the plan, it is important to acknowledge where we've come from, but we also have to acknowledge that that recovery isn't even across the city, and we're still in a place where significant projects have not been completed. So I would hate that to be kind of we've moved on. And in terms of delivering on some of these things, the cycle network expansion, we've made a lot of progress, but that progress, I would argue, and people have commented on this, is not even across the city. So how do we reflect that in the report saying this continues to be a priority in areas where we haven't delivered this?
I will note that and consider
And
that further.
I'm sure it is in there, but like, how do we make it quite explicit, I think, would be my question.
Yeah, and if there is a specific amendment that you would like to propose along those lines, we would invite you to do that through the process that Natasha's going to follow up with.
Thank you.
Good as gold. Thank you very much. Thank you. And as I said, if we've got any alternative amendments or whatever, please put them through by lunchtime Monday if possible, please.
Just a very quick
Sorry
question.
at all, but you're going to
I'm
say
not. The big brouhaha about the fires and the electric batteries and things. Do we have any kind of plan or policy about that or a reaction to it?
Fine in most places.
I think, if I may,
It was just more the issue
It's a
about
myth.
how difficult they are to put out, and there was the Littleton Tunnel, but also buildings as well. Have we thought about that?
yeah.
Or maybe you could find out.
Okay, we'll find
just
out.
find out.
Maybe you'll come back.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll come back with advice after consulting with FENS.
Good work. Yep, thank you. So we're karakia time.